All right, our task today and for this week actually is to wrap up Rube Goldberg, but also to work through a case study on colonizing Mars. We learned all about the solar system, we learned a lot about space and gravity, so now let's sort of take a deeper look at what it would be like if we actually wanted to go farm on another planet and live on another planet. So you're looking for the tasks list like usual on Canvas, posted as both an announcement and an assignment. It should be... this is Unit 5, Lesson 8, so you're looking for Science2A U5L8. And the first thing I want to do is just check in about Rube Goldberg. I looked through your pictures. I haven't graded them yet, but I will do that. But looks like most of you are pretty much done, or at least are well on your way or on track to getting there. I'll be contacting you if you seem to be missing photos or anything like that. My challenge to you this week, going into the next week, and that's where I'm going to wrap it up. So you need to finish your machine. Make sure it runs for 15 seconds at least, unaided, accomplishes 4 of those 8 tasks listed in the project description. But the other thing I want you to do now is to decorate it. So you can add some color, you can add some parts that are not part of the actual machine, so figurines, toys. In the past, a lot of students have done a theme, like a graduation theme, or an ocean theme, or space, or Tiger King, or whatever you want to do. Just makes it a little more fun to watch, I think. So, but I'll be posting an assignment on Thursday for you guys with the final Flipgrid where you can post the video of your machine. So if you have that done, just hold on to it till then. Also, again, we have just over a week of class left, so make sure you are catching up on any missing work if you have that, and please reach out to me if you do. I have graded your tests, so if you click on that link right there, the third one, checking in, the third one down, Science2A Orbit and Solar System Test Review, if you click on that, it'll take you to your graded test. Please look over the answers and read the comments that I wrote. If I took points off of anything, I shared that. So just to go through the test and highlight a few things that I noticed while I was grading it. Question 2, it looks like a lot of you have taken the main message that there is always gravity, right? Friend 2 or friend 1 says, oh, there's no gravity in space. There's always gravity, and I'm glad that most of you have kind of cemented that as an understanding. That's kind of the goal of this whole unit, if nothing else. Question 4 was the eccentricity calculation. A lot of you were good about not including units. The trick to that question was understanding that the closer to 0 your calculation was, the more circular it is. So it's Deimos that has a more circular orbit, not Phobos. Some of you put Phobos, but remember, close to 0 means more circular. A lot of you in the PhET simulation, you understood how it changed, but you often described the orbit as an oval. And I know I'm being technical here, but it's not actually the shape. Does anyone know what the shape of that orbit is? What's the word that I always used?
Elliptical?
It's elliptical. Technically, an oval is a little bit different. An oval is like an egg shape. This is a wider circle. So I was a little technical about that. In my opinion, the hardest question in your quiz had some of the hardest questions, I think, out of all the quizzes that were submitted by students, but the solar wind question was hard, but a lot of you did awesome on that and had good answers to that one. That was question 8. Question 12 was all about the requirements for life, the 4 criteria, and a lot of you were listing things like atmosphere, and there was another one about like stable weather, I think, or something, but the main thing was like a lot of you forgot energy source. That was the main one. So I might have taken a point off or 2 for that. The Mars atmosphere question was another hard one, so I tried to give credit where it was due. Some of you were saying Mars has low gravity, so it can't hold the gases there. That's good. But the group in particular was getting at this like chemical reaction that occurs with rocks on the soil that's pulling CO2 out of the atmosphere. So if you got that, great. I saw some very creative answers for the creation of the universe. Some of you had some pretty fun stories. And the extra credit, a lot of you, the one about Rube Goldberg in particular, the main message was that he drew the machines. He didn't actually build them. So I might not have given you credit if you were saying he was building the machines, but otherwise the test went pretty well. What was it like taking a test with questions written by other students? Multiple choice went really well, I thought. So it looks like you were well prepared. So any other questions or comments on the test? You can email me stuff too if you've got individual concerns or sort that sort of stuff out. So all right, so I want to start us off on the case study. It's titled Farming on Mars, Developing Sustainable Crops on Mars, or sorry, it's called Farming in Space. So the do now, this is step number 2 that we're on now. I would like you to watch the video that is posted below. It's me reading the introduction. I have a link to the actual packet itself too, so if you just want to read along there. But most importantly, you'll see there's a link to the U5L8 do now Google form. That's at the very end of the first line of text on step 2. So your goal is to watch the video and fill out the Google form. I'm going to time us for about 8 minutes to complete that, and then we'll move on to the next phase. So 8 minutes to watch the do now video and answer the questions on the form. Let me know if you can't find a link or don't know what to do. Go for it. All right. I think we're all back. Yep, here we go. So I saw 2 responses on there. Third group, just whenever, if you feel ready, submit that or at least whatever you have. So, all right, what do we think? What are some challenges for the sustainability side? What I'm seeing on here in particular, you referenced the adapting to the weather on Mars. But again, I want to emphasize, what are we going to be farming inside of?
The dome.
Little dome, right? So we'll have control of the weather inside. You are right, though, for the weather outside. And one thing about weather, it is going to be interesting about the day and night cycles and how much light's coming through, which will definitely be reduced. But I think our dome, we can assume, is also able to simulate those things. But yes, long-term weather patterns and stuff is going to be interesting. A lot of you are mentioning protein. I saw for dietary thing, like getting meat out there, cows and chickens, is an interesting thing to think about. Some of you mentioned fertilizer and being able to reuse fertilizer or produce more for sustainability, getting nutrient-rich food that requires more time to grow. Nice. Juliet, Bryce, and Barry, you're getting very specific. That's awesome. Okay. Yes, one thing that I think that we're going to have to come to terms with is, anyone know what type of people are going to most likely be the ones colonizing Mars? You think we're going to get meat on Mars? Yes, vegans and vegetarians are probably going to be the ones going to Mars, not meat eaters. Or it's going to be a little while till we get meat that isn't artificial or prepackaged. So, okay. Before we move on to part 2, a little interlude. I want you to complete 2 ed puzzles that I posted. This is on the tasks list. This is now task 5, food in space. There's 2 ed puzzle links there. The first one is called Science2A, food in space. The second one is Science2A, growing food on Mars. They're 2 short videos with a couple questions to them. I'd like you to watch those and answer the questions. If you can't get ed puzzle to work, I have links to just the videos below that. But again, I'll time us for 10 minutes to complete that, and then we'll come back together to reflect. Go for it. I guess the air, like, because most of our ability to taste is actually based on what? We did learn about this.
Smell.
Yeah, and I guess maybe the flavor vapors aren't moving up into your nostril quite as naturally as I think they would if you were in gravity, right? Versus being in free fall with no apparent weight. I think the way it moves, it changes the way you perceive flavors a little bit. So I guess things are a little duller or something. So I don't know. I wonder if there means like astronauts are going to eat spicier foods or something just to try to get a little bit of taste. In terms of growing on Mars, I mean, I know you guys, hopefully this is obvious by now, but why can't we just throw seeds into the regolith, which is just the Martian surface? What were some problems with that?
Atmosphere is too thin, and the dirt is also like screwed up. It's like super dry and like toxic kind of to the plants and that stuff.
But only on the surface, right? Did anyone catch that? What could we potentially do?
Dig up and stuff.
Yeah, if we dig down low, the soil there actually does have a little bit of nitrogen and carbon in it and stuff. And so I guess maybe in the Martian movie, that's what he was doing, was actually digging below this toxic surface and using some of the soil that might have been a little more usable. Anyway, kind of interesting concept. So would you guys eat algae, an algae slurry grown in an algae farm or bath?
No.
The theme I saw was most of you were like, if it was life or death, okay. Or, you know, I would do it for a few days, but not like for the long term. And again, I think that's part of the challenge, because yes, we could keep ourselves alive on that, but again, it's that happiness factor. You're going to get pretty tired of consuming foods like that, where you're just drinking your meals. I don't know exactly what kind of foods they can make with algae stuff. I would assume you could flavor it and try to make it a little more exciting or palpable, but I don't know the details. So, all right, any other questions or comments on those two videos? All right, then we're going to move on to part 2. In this part, you're going to complete a Google form. So I'm going to break you into the exact same groups you were in before. And you're going to, once again, read through instructions and reply on a Google form. Everything is there. The gist of it is that you are not identifying your crops yet. What you're going to do is try to choose criteria. So like, what do you think are the most important factors, right? Is it the yield? Is it the amount of time that it takes for them to grow? Is it the amount of water they need? What do you think are the top 5 things that you need to consider when choosing a crop to then bring and grow on Mars? So all the instructions are there in that Google form. If you're looking at the tasks list, it's the final task, number 6, part 2, selecting criteria for growing foods. Please click on that link there and work with your same group to complete that Google form. Timers, we're going to set for 15 minutes to complete as much of this as we can. All right, I should just be able to open up the same breakout rooms. Looks like, hold on, I got to make some corrections here. Some people have bounced around. That's okay. All right. You know what? I'm going to recreate the rooms here. Sorry, we're all right, hold on, everybody. Sorry, I think it looks like I got to start from scratch here. For some reason, I'm missing a few people, but anyway, we'll deal with this. Okay, rooms are open. Now what's happening here is that Chloe, for some reason, I'm not seeing you in the room list.
Yeah, my room didn't open either.
How funny. So it looks like, yeah, Bear, I don't have you assigned, and you guys aren't showing up. So what I'm going to ask you 3 to do is, would you mind logging out and coming back into the room?
Yeah, sure.
And let's see if that fixes it. And if not, then we'll just come back together. Ed, can I have you do the same thing? Just leave the room and come back in. I want to see if that fixes it. Just for clarifying what things like yield and that mean. So in terms of homework, because I want to wrap up here, it's all on the bottom of the tasks list. But the main thing is to make sure that you have your group is posted to the discussion board, which looks like all 3 groups did for part 1. For part 2, sorry, we had to transition to individual stuff, but just make sure that you have posted 5 criteria and written a short little paragraph about why you think those 5 are the most important. So if you can get those done in class now, make sure you get them done as homework. There is one more assignment I want you to do. It's another Ed puzzle. It's on the bottom of the tasks list, and it's also posted as it'll post it as an assignment right after class. That one's a little longer. It's about, I think it's about 12-minute video that I made, and it's a lecture by me on agriculture and human nutrition, giving you a little bit more information about things to consider when we meet next time and start thinking about what actual crops to choose. So please just complete that Ed puzzle as homework for Thursday. Otherwise, just make sure you're working on your Rube Goldberg and Catch Company missing assignments. I want to clarify that the decoration aspect is just something that's meant to be fun. It's not anything that's required, but I just do really strongly encourage it. But it's not going to affect your grade if you don't have decorations. The main 3 criteria I've been listing are what it'll be graded on. So questions on that? That's it for me, kids, then. Thank you very much. Have a good day. I'll hang around if anyone wants to chat about anything.